You on?
Yeah, wait.
The angle's mostly good as long as none of the peanut butter's in the shot.
Yeah, I know that.
No, right there on the side. It just like falls off the side of the shot. Good?
Okay.
Is it recording?
Yes.
Alright.
Hi, I'm Steven.
I'm Caleb.
And I'm Mira, and I'll be reading the stage directions.
And this is for my Shakespeare Plague project. Hope you enjoy A Telltale Fart.
Woo! Day 1, 11 a.m. Pete climbs up the stairs to his apartment and enters with 2 reusable bags filled to the brim with cans, while Fred is on the couch playing Mario Kart. It's a small space where you can't escape any smell. There's a slightly tense atmosphere in the apartment at all times. Maybe it's because they keep their peanut butter in the fridge, or that every cabinet is closed slightly ajar. Pete and Fred have been best friends for several years now. Pete, with a strain in his voice,
Can you grab the rest in the trunk?
Yeah. Just
slowly stands up, still playing Mario Kart.
give me...
Slowly walks backward to the door. He's facing the TV. He's backing out of the apartment, unaware of the stairs immediately behind him.
Okay, what food? Shit!
He trips and falls down the stairs. He grunts and curses. Pete is unfazed and continues to unpack groceries. This isn't the first time Fred's tripped down the staircase. Once Fred hits the bottom, he finishes his question in a weaker voice.
Food did you get?
There wasn't a lot of apples, bananas, grapes, avocados, carrots, broccoli, asparagus, chicken, beef, pork, calamari, Cheerios. I mean not Cheerios. The Cheerios that are chocolatey. Rice, instant Spanish rice, light bread, whole wheat bread, sourdough bread, frozen pizza, frozen peas.
As Pete is still listing, Fred enters the room again, carrying the remaining bags.
Frozen corn, milk, yogurt, oatmeal, fruit gushers, or peanut butter. So I just got a bunch of canned food.
Picks up a can and reads it.
Jalapeno refried beans. Huh.
6:30 p.m. Pete and Fred are sitting at the kitchen table eating. Fred is inhaling a big old plate of beans, and Pete is eating tomato soup. Fred, with a mouthful,
Wow. These are so good.
That's cool.
You mind if I keep eating the jalapeno refried beans you bought?
Nah, go ahead.
Thanks, pal.
he farts.
Uh-oh.
Oh my god, man. That is foul.
He walks out of the room. Day 2. Pete enters the kitchen and is immediately put off by the smell. He notices a couple of empty, refried bean cans near the sink. He looks over at the kitchen table where Fred is eating even more refried beans.
Hey man,
Fred, his stupid mouth full of beans.
Morning.
beans for breakfast.
Fred picking up on the judgment.
Yeah, I know, but I think they work for breakfast. Sorry.
Pete looks at the long list on the fridge called Pete's List of Things to Do, with everything crossed except build a house of cards. He nods his head, grabs a deck of cards, and gets to work. He sits down at the table with Fred, who's still eating beans.
Let us begin.
Tries to put 2 cards together, but they fail.
Damn it.
As he tries again, he smells something foul, something rotten. He pulls his shirt over his nose and looks up at Fred.
Dude.
Fred blindly eating away beans.
What?
Pete, tears in his eyes.
Are you okay?
Fred, a blank expression.
Great. Why?
Pete realizes that Fred doesn't even realize he just farted.
Nothing, man.
He gets up from the table and moves to the opposite side of the room to escape the smell. He lies down on the floor to build up his card stack again. He looks back at Fred, who just again is unfazed by the deadly gas coming out of his butt. Day 3. The day consists of a montage of Pete trying to find a spot to build his house of cards in peace, but Fred is always nearby farting. During this revolting montage, Pete is not only bothered by the interruptions, but by the smell also. Pete tries increasingly extreme ways to cover his nose. Pete, still in a reclining chair, tries to make a house of cards, but Fred, lying on the couch, emits short, rapid farts.
Oh.
Pete is at the kitchen table, but Fred walks past a pot full of beans on the stove and farts with such force that the warmer flame jumps up.
Hey, you see that?
Pete tries to lie in bed, but Fred is using the pull-up bar in the doorway and farts every time he does a pull-up. Finally, Pete tries to lock himself in the bathroom, but the farts can still be heard loud and clear. Pete walks out of the bathroom, down the hall, and faces Fred, who's sitting at the table eating beans. Around him are empty bean cans. It looks like way more than Pete actually bought. Pete, politely,
Could you eat something other than beans for a little while? I bought a lot of other stuff.
Fred stares blankly, mouthful of beans.
It's just that I've been trying to build a house of cards, and it's hard to focus when there's all this noise and smell and...
Fred is still just staring at him like a lobotomized patient.
Never mind.
Pete leaves the table and goes to bed. While he's lying in bed, he stares at the ceiling. We can only see his face and the pain, while farts can still be heard. Day 4. It's in the afternoon. The apartment has been silent all day. Pete is sitting at the kitchen table with a quiet anger. Fred has now descended into eating beans straight out of the can, and it's standing right behind Pete. A fan around the apartment finds every surface covered in Febreze, air fresheners, and scented candles, but Pete's nose plugs confirm that the smell of the farts has not gone away. There is light in the fartness. Pete is almost finished with his house of cards. All he has is to place 2 more cards at the top. This is the most important moment of his life. Fred unknowingly farts on Pete's face. And the house of cards, and they collapse. Pete is in shock. He looks at Fred with hatred. He did this. Pete, tears welling up.
Why? Why are you doing this to me? Is it because I ate your leftovers last week? Please tell me what I did, because I'm going crazy. You win! I thought I knew the darkness inside your soul, but you've shown a blackness that terrifies me. All you've done for the past 4 days is eat beans. I mean, what the fuck? All I hear are farts. All I smell are farts. And all I can dream of are farts. Please. Please make it stop. You have to make it stop.
Pause. Fred frowns as if he can't understand what Pete just said. His lust for the beans have made him a sack of flesh that can only consume. Unable to grasp what Pete is telling him, out of kindness he offers his can of beans to Pete. Pete screams! Day 5. Pete kneels in front of the TV, which has the news channel on. It's his new god. Anchor. Unfortunately, the governor has issued a month extension for the safety of the population, so stay inside, everybody. It's going to be a long... Pete yanks yanks the TV out of the wall. He begins to weep. Out of the corner of his eye, he sees a pink whoopee cushion lying on the ground with Pete's fart bag written in black big letters. He tries to grab it, but his hands come up empty. It's only a vision, a prophecy. He begins to laugh and cannot stop. He walks into the kitchen, grabs a can of beans, opens it, and begins to eat them. Cut to later in the day, the whole apartment is dark, except for the glow of Pete's laptop on the kitchen table. Fred walks into the kitchen to get more beans, but is distracted by the bright light. He leans in close to read. In a Google Doc, the sentence, in quotes, "All farts and no house of cards make Pete an angry boy," repeats over and over. It paints the entire screen. As he is bent over confused, a plastic bag is quickly pulled over his head, and Fred's expression tells us that it's full of farts, but this one do not belong to him. We see that it is Pete who is holding the bag over Fred's head. Fred struggles, but with each passing second, he grows weaker and weaker, overcome by this foreign fart smell. Fred collapses, finally. He is dead. Day 6. We are shown the kitchen and the living room empty. We cut to Pete as he shoves Fred's body in a hallway closet. He closes the closet door, tapes the door frame shut, and hangs a car air freshener on the handle. It doesn't matter if the body begins to smell, it'll still be better than Fred's farts. Pete leaves the hallway and sits down at the kitchen table to build his house of cards. He's finally at peace. As he begins to stack cards together, a gust of wind blows them down. Pete is confused, but then reels back in disgust. The wind was a fart. Another fart is heard. And another. And another. And another. Pete becomes increasingly terrified. He knows the farts will never go away. He's about to scream when the screen turns black. Curtain.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
So fucking